you to clap for me one time. Just a little louder. Perfect. And
Okay. Gena, can you introduce yourself and just tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are, what you do, that kind of stuff?
I am Gena Vandermeulen, and I am a high school English teacher, and I am just finishing my 31st year of teaching. And so I teach English language arts and have worked with all levels of students, from the lowest level to the highest level of students, and trying to help them to all gain an understanding of literature and writing and a love of reading.
Awesome. Great. What's your favorite part of being a teacher?
I think my favorite part about being a teacher is the relationships built with students, and so, which I think is why I've never become an administrator. People always wonder, if you've been in education for so long, why are you still in the classroom? And for me, it's because I enjoy being with the students and their quirkiness and their craziness and their funniness, and that's really not a word, and how fun, they're just fun. I enjoy them, they keep me young, we laugh. There are stressful times, of course, when you're teaching, and it's kind of like a family or a community when there are times when it's a lot of fun, and then there are times when I challenge the students, perhaps maybe beyond what they think they're capable of, and sometimes that can be stressful, but there has to be a level of trust that they understand that I may be challenging them, but I'm walking beside them and helping them, and I know that they're capable of what I'm asking them to do, and that's what I love.
And since you've been doing this so long, what do you see as your real kind of goal that you're trying to do with these young people? Like where are you trying to take them? I assume that's probably changed, the longer you've done this, that you, like, where do you see that you're trying to take them on their journey?
So I want to take kids on a journey. I think obviously academically, I want them to be successful with their academics. If they're going to college or a trade school or straight into the workforce, I want them to have the skills, communication skills, whether it's reading or writing or speaking, communicating with any person they might have to communicate with. So that's the main goal. But I think just as importantly, I try to help kids just kind of find their way. I teach seniors, and so seniors are going through a life change, right? They're graduating, they're unsure maybe of what their future will be, some are unsure of the direction that they may be going, and I try to help them find the calm in that. I try to help them realize, I don't know exactly where I might be in 5 years, but the journey will be okay, and if I just take one step at a time, I'll be fine. Because I think a lot of kids get really stressed about feeling as if they have to know everything right now. And if they don't know what their major is or where they want to go to school or where they want to live, that somehow they're not prepared. And we all know as adults that that's not true. And so I think in addition to the academics, it is helping them find that way and be content with themselves and happy. But I also want them to understand that everybody has a story, that everyone has a journey they've been on, and that you're sitting in a room maybe with 30 other students, and you don't know all their stories. And so how students act, behave, whether they turn in their work or not, or whether they're absent or not, we don't know their whole story. We don't know what is in their life outside of the time we see them. So I want to help kids understand empathy and understanding other people, even when we don't know their whole story. So Atticus in To Kill a Mockingbird taught his children that before you judge someone, you need to walk around in their shoes. Well, we can't always walk around in someone's shoes, but we know that they have shoes that we haven't walked in. And so understanding that we should be kind to each other, even when we don't understand why someone is acting the way they are. So I guess that was 3, right? Academics was 1, helping them be okay with not knowing where they're going, but then also helping them to understand other people when they might not even know what that person's story is.
Wow. Well, we should be doing that with everybody, not just seniors. Wow,
yeah.
That's awesome. Well, let's just drop the mic there. This is getting better, everybody we meet with. Oh, this is awesome.
Good.
Okay, so how did you how long have you kind of worked with Amy and
Gosh.
me, and what kind of got that how did that all start?
Okay.
And can you kind of...
Yeah, but it's been a long time.
Yeah,
I
I
don't
know.
remember the exact year,
Yeah.
but it's been 10 or 15 years. It has to have been. I went to the old building in Granville. Do you know
Okay.
what year that was?
That would have been over 10 years ago. That would have been 2007,
Yeah.
2008.
Yeah, I was at that building a lot. And so I came to you and found NeuroCore originally, and you, Dr. Royer, and Amy, when I turned 40. I just noticed I was worrying about things more. I wasn't sleeping as well. And it wasn't me. I knew that it wasn't, something was different, but I wasn't sure what it was because I had never been like that before. And little things that shouldn't even faze you would make me worry, or I would ruminate about it. And I didn't understand why. So I started researching, and I realized that I was probably going through hormone changes with just perimenopause and aging, and I read books on it and realized that I wanted to try a holistic, healthy way to manage it, and that's what led me to you. And so I did the training, and I started sleeping better, and I started not worrying as much, and I think it also just gave me a way to understand what was happening and that it could be managed, and it was going to be okay. So originally, that's how I came to you. And then I just fell in love with the training for so many reasons, which we'll probably talk about eventually here. And I have maintained that training still because I just know how beneficial it is in life.
So when did you start to notice that things started changing when you were doing training? Like was it a gradual thing? Was there something you were doing in training that were like, wait a minute, something's getting kind of different here?
I think it was a gradual change because I think I needed to learn to trust it. I needed to realize that this was going to work, and then it did start to work. And I worked with the breathing, and of course I did the NeuroCore treatment as well. But once that becomes a part of your inner being, so I can be teaching at this point, and if a student is doing something that's frustrating, or perhaps right before class, I got an email from a parent that was just really upsetting, or I got an email, something happened with an administrator. I'm able to control that with breathing, and I can be teaching in front of the room with 30 kids in the room and be focusing on my breathing at the same time, and now I do it without even thinking. But in the beginning, you work on that breathing while you're doing what you're doing. No one even knows you're doing it, but you're sort of self-maintaining, you're self-managing, and then you don't lose that focus. You don't ever go into the stress mode where your blood pressure goes up and your heart rate goes up and you start sweating and you feel yourself just getting worked up. That doesn't happen because you can manage it still while you're doing your task that you have to get done. So I noticed that right away, that I could focus on my breathing, maintain what I was doing, and still maintain calm, even if something had most recently stressed me out.
What was that like to see the two different aspects of yourself?
I think it was exciting because I realized that I was in control. For a while, I think if you start to worry too much or have anxiety or not sleeping well, I think in the beginning you feel out of control, as if you can't control this. And I learned quickly through your program that I could control it. It takes work, but I could control it. And I didn't need to feel out of control because I could maintain a calm with breathing, with being aware, with taking care of my brain, exercise, eating healthy, getting fresh air, maintaining a sleep schedule, even on the weekends, not staying up till 2, not that I ever did that, but a lot of my students have horrible sleep patterns because they stay up till 2 in the morning and then they have to get up for school at 6 or 7. So they're tired all the time. But helping teenagers to understand that is tough. But back to for me, I think I was in control. That helped the most, that just feeling as if it wasn't going to be out of control and I could manage what was happening.
So how would you describe the difference between, or do you notice a difference between stress focus and calm focus? And how would you just describe the difference between those two?
Yes, so I absolutely can tell a difference between stress focus and calm focus. And in fact, And I'll say every once in a while, I find myself getting into that stress focus because it's human, right? We're human, it's human nature. So I guess the way I'll describe it is in the past, before I worked with the brain health and neurocore and the breathing, if something happened, and I'm going to use work as an example just because it's such a part of my life. If I got some kind of an email or a situation with a student that upset me or an administrator or whatever, I would have the reaction of, which we've all felt, where your heartbeat goes up, you can feel your blood pressure going up, you can feel yourself getting worked up, but that would stay for a while and might even affect the sleep that night, and you might bring it into the next day, and it might be, it would just hang on. And I think now, I've noticed, and this is literally the truth, it can happen, I read the email, and my instant reaction is that you feel yourself kind of just doing this, and without even thinking, I can feel myself going down. I can feel the breathing slow down, I can feel my shoulders come down, I can feel myself able to think through a response that's not a stress response to it. It's more, I'm going to calmly respond to this, because a stress response is going to do nothing but anger the situation and bring up the level of tension. And so whether it's I'm in the front of the classroom and I have to respond to a student, or I'm responding to another colleague, or responding to an email, I find myself very quickly calming down. And so I feel the calm response more often. I still feel the stress response when things first hit, but I notice it. Number one, I notice it. I wonder if everyone notices that, but I notice it and then work to bring it down. And sometimes I don't even need to work to bring it down because it happens because I've done it for so long now.
Excellent. So let's move to another area. In all walks of life, whether it's athletics, academics, the workplace, change is inevitable. It's part of it. And how would you say that this helps kind of deal with maybe change that you're not expecting to happen, changes that are coming your way, maybe that you are expecting? Can you speak to changes that happen and how this kind of helps maybe make those work for the better?
Yeah. So change happens all the time, obviously in our lives, but also in our work environment. And I think that having gone through the training has helped me to realize, I think number one, I may not agree with the change, but it's okay. Where I have to let it go. If it's in the workplace, this is my job. I might not agree with it, and I probably will let people, gently know, I'm not sure this is the right direction, but you're my boss and I'll do it. And then you calmly do it. I think in the past, I might have thought about it longer. I might have not liked it and not agreed with it. So not been able to just let it go and do what I needed to do. Now I can look at the change, and even though it may not be best for kids, or it may not be, whether it's a state regulation or something our district needs to do, or maybe it's someone in administration making a decision because they have the bigger picture of the whole district. I have my little classroom, so I might not like it for my classroom, but it might be best for the whole district. I'm better able to just accept that, okay, we just need to do this. It doesn't mean that I always like it, but I think it helps you to just let it go. Let it go and focus on what you like. Do what you need to do, and then let's not ruminate on that. Let's think about what we can control. And I think in life, change is obviously all the time, happens all the time. And so even now, as you know, I'm just decided to retire from teaching after 31 years. That's a big decision. And yes, was it stressful? It was, not to the point of losing sleep or anything, but it was a big decision to leave this part of my life behind, because teaching for me has been a calling. It has not been a job. It is something that has literally filled my soul. I say that, I know it sounds cliche, but it's filled my soul for so long. The students have made me who I am. I've enjoyed every day. And I don't think everybody can say they've enjoyed every day of their job, but I really have. And so leaving it is a big decision, But having the training has allowed me to realize that it will be okay, and change is good, really. We grow from change. And so making that decision has been, I probably was okay, so true story. I had to send in the email to the district that I was going to retire, and it has to be done by a certain date. And that was the big thing everybody was waiting for, because until you hit send, it's really not done. And when I first hit send, my heart was beating like, oh my gosh, I just hit send. But as I told you, within minutes, it had come right back down. And I went and I taught my last hour, and it was just fine. I felt I can do this. This is okay.
That's awesome. Yeah. So you've been doing this a long time, and you're really good at what you do. In light of the things that you've learned since you were 40 in the brain stuff, how do you think that interfacing this kind of stuff with education, okay, would have or wouldn't have any benefit? Do you think that teaching kids how to breathe or that kind of stuff has benefit? When you said you've worked with some kids in settings where you have to calm them down, that kind of thing. What's been your experience at teaching them these things that aren't so much educational things? These are more behavioral, emotional things. How does that impact their posture of learning or their receptibility for learning?
I think that interfacing the training, brain training and brain health with learning and education is so important and essential. Students who are not calm, students who are not able to manage themselves, their emotional health, their brain health, are not as able to learn. They don't learn as much, they don't learn as quickly. I've worked with students often who deal with anxiety, who deal with depression, who deal with panic attacks, or the normal anxiety of having to do a speech. We can talk about just the normal anxiety, which everybody gets because no one wants to talk in front of their peers, to the diagnosable anxiety disorders. And so when I work with those students, I'll say to them, okay, before a speech, for example, okay, just breathe. Just breathe through your nose. Just take long, deep breaths and take a minute. Don't practice your speech anymore. We're minutes from doing it. Just calm yourself down. Because if you work yourself up too much, you won't remember because your brain's in overdrive. And it's not because you didn't prep. It's not because you didn't practice or plan. It's because your brain can't get enough oxygen right now to even function. So we need you just to calm down. So why don't you wait a minute, we'll let somebody else go, and then you'll go again. So that, from that to the student who is really having a panic attack and is hyperventilating, and before help can come, I walk that student just as much as I can through just breathing, because that's all I can do at that point. Just deep breathing, let's get you calm, let's obviously then help comes and then they work with the student while I'm with the other students. But I just believe from those examples to just learning in general, when kids can learn to manage their brain health from breathing to sleep, they will be better learners. So obviously breathing is essential. I could see it every day using it in my classroom. And then also teaching kids, especially teenagers, sleep benefits. I truly don't think these kids understand what they're doing to their brains when they sleep 2 hours a day. Yeah. I don't think they understand the damage they're doing to their brains and why they can't focus in class and why they're falling asleep in class and how important it is for their future and for their learning that they manage their brain health. I don't think we teach that to kids. I can teach the breathing, I can help them to breathe, and I can help to calm them down, but we don't teach brain health. I of course have tidbits that just kind of come out because that's what I believe, but why don't we teach kids about brain health? and sleeping and eating and exercise and breathing and managing stress. And that stress can be normal. I feel like we've raised a generation, the current generation, and the generation believes that any discomfort is bad. But in reality, we all have discomfort. We all have high stress situations. And it's okay as long as we manage them. But we've taught kids it's not okay and we need to fix that for you. And so they don't have coping mechanisms or skills. They don't have a way to self-regulate. So yes, I think teaching brain health is essential and should be taught somewhere.
Good stuff. Okay, let's finish with this.
Okay.
You're doing so good.
Oh, good.
Yay. I love it.
I was nervous. I didn't know it. Okay, good.
Okay. So, and this will kind of segue right into this. Okay. Let's see. What does having an inner armor mean to you, and why is that important?
Having an inner armor, to me, means that I am capable of handling life. It means that I am able to manage stressors. And although if there's a major stressor, it may take me a minute or a day, depending on what it is, to process what's happening, I know that in that minute or that day that I will be able to manage it, and I just have to work through it, but I'll be okay. So I think it gives me a strength. I think it gives me a confidence. It gives me almost a joy, because when you go through life and you know that you can manage life, you experience joys in a more intense way. So it's not just that you learn to manage the stress, but you also learn to appreciate the joy in life. So having that inner armor helps me to both manage stressful situations, which will happen and continue to happen through life, manage change in our lives and in our jobs, and also navigate whatever life throws at us, even unexpected situations.
That's awesome. That is awesome.
Excellent.
And that so describes you.
Oh,